Okay, this morning is Palm Sunday, and we're going to talk about one key factor that can make all the difference in the world. And when we move through the changes in our lives, which is the theme for April. It's all about changes and how we move through them and how we can move through them. And we're going to use the experience this morning of one of the master teachers, Jesus, as an example of this key. The talk won't be as long as usual because we have the beautiful rose ceremony at the end. So we're going to get a point across though. So before this brief lesson this morning, I must tell you the only Palm Sunday joke that I know. There's a time for it, but it will be here. So if you have a better one, just text it to me and I'll use it next year. But this is the one I have. It was Palm Sunday, and the family's young son, Johnny, woke up in a really bad mood and just didn't want to go to church. He whined and complained about it so much that his parents finally gave in and said he didn't have to go. When the rest of the family returned home carrying palm branches, the little boy asked what they were for. His mother explained. People put them on the ground as Jesus came by. Wouldn't you know it, said the little boy. The one Sunday I don't go to church and Jesus shows up. It's my joke. If you got a better one, send it to me. Jesus had come to Jerusalem for Passover, and for what he knew was his to do. He rode on a donkey, and the people praised him as king, strewing palm fronds to line his path as he showed respect, and as they showed respect and honor. This was their king. And they laid these down before him and the donkey. And this is what's called Palm Sunday. And even as this was happening, he knew what he had to do. And it was drawing nearer. And he had a human emotion about it. The human emotion was fear. The old-fashioned, shaking your boots kind of fear. Not the new perspective that we gained last week. If you were here last week, which is every change is a blessing, and we were feeling, by the end of the service, I hope, feeling excited and ready for change. That was what the talk was on. So I get the sense, though, that that was not the change, this is from reading the scripture, that Jesus had on this new perspective. He had plain old fear. Just like we can have plain old fear when changes come upon us that rock our world, can change our whole world, right? We can get afraid. Jesus was afraid. And in his fear, he knew he needed to pray. It's always good to pray. We know this. Prayer is always good. It can absolutely move us to feeling excited and kind of ready for the change. And we believe that every change is a blessing. So we're changing that from, well, we're changing our thought process from it's a terrible thing change. It's awful, it feels terrible, it can feel terrible. We acknowledge that. But it's a blessing of some sort. There's always a blessing in it. So after Passover meal, he said he wanted to go pray and asked some of the disciples to go with him. And they went to the garden in Gethsemane. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 36 to 38, we read, Then Jesus came to them to a place called Gethsemane and said to the disciples, Sit here while I pray over there. And he took with him Peter and two sons of Zebedee. And he began to be sorrowful and deeply disturbed. And he said to them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. That was the key phrase right there. Stay with me and watch with me. It's a vitally important concept when we're going through a significant change in our lives. Jesus made the decision not to go it alone. And that is a powerful, powerful change to make in our consciousness that will support us in transformation through change. Neil Donald Walsh, whose book we've been basing this month's theme on, When Everything Changes, wrote this. This is a simple change, he says, but it requires something from us that many people, and I'm going to say, he says, most people, are not used to, are not always comfortable with. It requires transparency. The reason that so many of us tend to self-isolate when we are facing big problems, and by the way, have you noticed that most of the changes that have taken place are where those big problems lie? Most of our big problems is something's changed. It's not the same as it was. And if you've ever emerged from something that changed, then this is a way, let me quote him, is that we never give ourselves permission to be as less than perfect. We think we should be perfect. Or someone who does not have it all together. We've also been taught as children that we should not burden others with our problems. And finally, we've been told that almost everything is our fault anyway. It was made very clear. We made our beds and now you have to lay in it. I don't know where these phrases come from, but you made your bed, now you have to lay in it. So anyway, none of that has any value. We were taught that, but it doesn't have any value. The people who raised us were wrong if they taught you that. Every single bit of it. Because in all of this, we hide our emotions and sometimes our very selves from others when we are facing difficulties or problems. And the irony of this is that these are precisely the times when those who love you want to be with you. Wouldn't you want to be there for someone that you loved if they were going through something? It's our first impulse as humans. So I'm going to invite you to make a commitment right now. If you're going through a big change in your life, that you reach out. That you reach out to another and share with that person what you're feeling about the change that is occurring in your life. Get their love, their support, their shoulder. Just to vent to even. Just reach out to someone. It doesn't matter who it is. However, we have amazing ministers and practitioners here who you can pick up the phone and just call. And anyone in this community, but it's so vital that we connect, just as Jesus did with his apostles, that we connect with somebody. Because in the words of Neil Donald Walsh, when you connect with somebody, you connect with yourself. Talking with another person, communicating with a mind outside of your own mind, puts you in touch with that part of yourself that is bigger than your mind, larger than your thoughts. We don't ever have to go it alone. I'm sure sometimes we feel that way. I don't want to bother anyone. I'll just move through it myself. But that's the beauty of being in a spiritual community, is that you have people who will hold that higher thought for you, who will be there to listen to you. Like-minded friends, that's what you want. You don't want to go to someone that's going to just go back and tell you it's all your fault. You want to go in and you want to share with like-minded people who you know are going to uplift and up-level you. And so it makes a difference that you connect with somebody. And let me change that just a little bit to say, connect with people who are awake, who are spiritually awake. Remember the challenge that Jesus had in the garden. Peter and the other two disciples fell asleep 3 times. We want support from people who are spiritually awake, who are really knowing the spiritual truth for us, and will not fall asleep to the truth of what is going on. So, my friends, the change is something that will be with us forever. It's just, everything's always changing. That's the nature of the universe, to change. And when it gets scary, we do not have to go it alone. There is support, lots of support. And not only the support from family and friends, and practitioners and ministers. I mean, there's a lot. There is support from the very essence, this is important, of life itself. There is a divinity within us that is always there to listen, to guide, and to allow us to evolve into a better version of ourselves. This is the part of us that breathes us, that lives us, that is the truth of who we are. And that is that this is solid, reliable, sturdy, and constant. The divine within us goes nowhere. It is always present. It is our eternal self. And Ernest Holmes tells us in his book, A New Design for Living, we are all living in a world of continual change, a world in which thought, thing, and experience are all in a constant state of flux. It is the very nature of the universe that there should be continual change and variation. It is a living world, the creation of a living, creative intelligence. It is vital and alive. But behind that, which changes, that's behind something that changes is the changeless. We have found that there is something stable and changeless, something eternal, this is from Holmes, upon which all external events depend for the very existence. Behind the endless process, he says, of change, and the infinite variety of experience and expression, there is that which does not change. We always have the changeless within us. Let us not forget that. We can call people, we can speak to people for the support, yeah. But it's that changeless presence within us that is so solid, so solid. And we can turn to that presence which does not change, that is within us, and gain the strength and comfort that we need. We will always get divine guidance when we are open to it, awake to our own divine selves. And when we do, that's where transformation begins. So from there, we're going to move into our rose ceremony, which hopefully you will all be a part of it. So the rose, let me just begin this. The rose blessing symbolizes in ceremony our recognition that the human is immersed in the divine, that we are all truly one in God, and that we live in an all-embracing circle of divine love. Oh, that feels so good. I would like to dedicate this rose ceremony to our beloved member, Rita Carpo, who is with her family right now, and they're watching Facebook Live. She is in hospice, and I would like to start this ceremony with a blessing for Rita. So this is for Rita Carpo, a beloved friend. I bless you, Rita, I bless your heart, and I bless your mind, because I know it is open wide to the divine. From this day forward, may you walk through all of life's changes with grace, with ease, with peace, and just know that you are present in each one of our hearts. Now for the rest of